what is one of the biggest differences you noticed in the response to the 2015 outbreak of high-path avian influenza compared to this most recent outbreak in 2022 to 2023?
Well, in terms of response to the outbreak, I think that the USDA and the states really began to recognize, and the industry began to recognize that the model of one introduction or one location that has high-path AI, which then can spread to many locations, that paradigm might not be true anymore. That with these goose guangdong lineage viruses, that we would start to see, or we could see, multiple introductions. So there were many companies that bought and manned their own depopulation equipment. And so I think what was really learned is that, you know, if, it's a little technical here, but if an individual flock is infected, that flock can infect, say, 5 other flocks. If you kill that flock rapidly and remove the host and stop the infection, you can save those other 5 flocks. And so the idea, in 2015, that response was quite slow. 2 weeks, 3 weeks sometimes at the start. So almost every bird in those flocks had died, and then thus put out a lot of virus that became infections for new flocks. And so that spread was perpetuated. So in 2022, that rapid destruction of depopulation of those initially infected birds really saved a lot of flocks.
What can we do to aid in that rapid detection so that we can protect, isolate, and protect?
Right. Well, there's a couple of things, so I think our producers got very good at detection here in Minnesota. They talk about things like quietness, and the flocks didn't look right, and they became very good at watching and listening to their birds. So I think high-path AI, and unlike many other diseases, are not detected first in the laboratory. They're first detected by someone who is good at watching their birds and who does it every day. So we used to call them good birdmen. Now maybe it's good bird people. But they sometimes in corporate settings, those people's voices aren't necessarily heard all the time. So this is a disease, and this is an instance where you really need to make sure that communication is happening from the bottom of the organization and coming and can come all the way to the top. So this is not something that your veterinarian is going to come to you and say, I think we have high-path AI. It's going to be the worker on the farm who's going to say, I think we have a problem. And that's, I think, one of the key things you can do. Another thing I want to mention is that back in 2015, there were 2 countries that had the same disease that we had, the same outbreak, caused by the same virus, and they had much better outcomes than we did here in the United States. That was the Netherlands and Canada, British Columbia specifically. And the reason why is that they had implemented voluntary self-quarantine, so inclusionary biosecurity plans. So if you detected something, you were supposed to lock down your farm to prevent things from spreading. Both of those countries had gone through catastrophic high-path AI outbreaks in the past and nearly wiped out their industries. And so they had that plan in place, and it really seemed to help. So it's that early detection, that early, hey, something's not quite right, and then it's that lockdown so that you're not spreading.
So it's shameful, or I don't want to have to think this way, but do you have to go through an experience to have a better response?
So that's a really good question, and I think I don't think that you have to, but it's the only way I've seen that's really helped. I think that what we have seen many times is as states experience high path AI for the first time, they haven't always responded in the best ways. Or when an industry is infected for the first time, they haven't always done the right things. So I think that, yeah, there's some level of having to learn it yourself. But
How can we share experiences that we've had, let's say in some of our northern states, with states that luckily haven't experienced this time around as much loss? How can we share those experiences and help put them in that driver's seat for next time?
well, I think 2022 kind of took care of that for us. But how can we share experiences? I think in many ways there has to, we do some interactive tabletops that can be helpful. I know you have some biosecurity games that are very helpful, where you can allow people to get into the mindset of what's happening so that they can understand that thought process. I think what people fail to understand is that in that moment, when you're thinking about losing everything, you're not thinking about things in the same way you were before. So you have to immerse people in that real experience to be able to help them think how to get out of it and to stay calm in that moment. It's it's as the producer said, I forgot what the number for 911 was. I forgot how to spell SOS.